Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us for tonight's interview. We have the wonderful Kim, who you will recognize from Coffee with Kim.
Coming next week.
Woohoo!
Woohoo.
So we've been kind of chatting and getting loose. So we're going to start with the first question, which you've already kind of gone over. But so when is the first time that you can remember chronic pain beginning for you?
Oh, this is a great question. And thank you so much, Lauren, for being here too tonight and taking it's very late on the East Coast. For those of you who don't know, Lauren is
I'm
giving up
I'm a
her.
night owl.
That's amazing. I'm in the West Coast, so it's a little earlier where I am. Um, so it's funny. You and I were just talking about this as we were warming up a little bit. My whole life, I always felt like the kid who was kind of the flunky in gym. I was really floppy and felt like I wasn't very coordinated. I could run, but I couldn't. I didn't have great coordination to play like team sports, and my feet were very flat. When I was learning to walk, I actually had to wear special shoes because my ankles turned in so much. So I remember struggling with a lot of like some joint problems, more instability probably. But as I got older, I did start running, and that was knowing what I know now, that was probably a mistake. But anyway, it was in my 20s, and I was training for actually a marathon, and I was actually doing really well. And I came in one day and I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. And it was, it went on for like 3 months and nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I was eventually diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but that was when I was 25. It may have been the beginning of MS or a overlap of sort of a bigger inflammatory condition that was both, some of the things that led to Dercums, maybe the connective tissue vulnerability and autoimmune. But pain has never left me really since that day. I've
Mhm.
just I would they gave me which they did back in those days. This was in the early 90s. They gave me amitriptyline, which I didn't realize at the time. I didn't know was a mast cell stabilizer. And so once I started taking just very low doses of that medicine, my pain was greatly improved. But I always had to be careful of how much I did. I always felt like my gas tank was like 80%, 70% of most people.
Yeah, that's true. All
And now
right,
I'm
so
60 and still in pain
of course. So, what are the symptoms that led you to seek out a diagnosis?
of Dercums. So you and I were just talking about this too. So I had some lipomas on my arm. Like I have a lot of lipomas
I can hear
here. Yeah, all here. They're all like probably I think I
it's
counted
really
25 or 50 maybe in this arm. And I have them on my hips, primarily
Mhm.
thighs and hips. Um, I did not have that many in my 30s, but they started it was kind of like a slower progression. Some people wake up overnight and they have like 50. I was not one of those people. They started to appear. And I remember my husband, we were dating at the time, and he's like, "That's strange. What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, I have these lipomas." He was like, "That's not normal." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I've always had them." But then as I got a little bit older, I think with probably hormonal changes and closer to menopause, more of them appeared. And then um, 6 weeks after my COVID vaccine, I landed in the hospital with some sort of big inflammatory event. And I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I had 3 days of IV steroids, like the highest amount that they can give you.
wow.
And after that, and some of the immunosuppressants that I then took for MS, they just exploded. So I think that's when, and by that point I was in my mid 50s. That was like 5 years ago. So that's when I really was like, something's not right here. I was also doing a lot of neuro PT kind of rehabbing, and that probably had a component of making it maybe a little more aggravated too, because I probably wasn't being as careful with the joints and some of the, I was doing weight. It is good to do weights, but you have to be careful. So I
Yeah, any over exercise I've found, like if you really, and that can be anything depending on the day, but
oh
like
right,
over
right.
exercise and pushing it, the bar
Totally.
changes all the time to what that
Yeah,
is for today. But yeah, I
that's
really
right.
tried to fight against it, and I do not recommend. I
Not
don't
good,
recommend
right?
fighting it.
Not good. Well, your
Not good.
body just sets the bar lower for you the next time.
That's true. There's always going to be something to pay.
Yes, that's right. The body keeps score of that book, right? It really does.
Yeah, it really does. And now we did a free book promo. Oh well, it's all right. You're welcome. All right, so now your quest to get diagnosed, which we already talked about, but that's fine.
Yeah, so and it wasn't so I I could have lived with like painful lipomas, but I think as we all know, there's more to it, right? Like you start to feel kind of fluish and I was having a lot of reactions also to the immunosuppressants that I was taking for MS, and my neurologist was really puzzled. And he was actually the one that sort of set me on the path where he said, I don't think that this is neurological. He was like, do you have any other health conditions? And I was like, no, I really don't. Like before I was hospitalized, I literally was like the healthiest person. I never catch anything. So he was very, I was lucky he was really experienced and had like 40 years of treating MS at like Cleveland Clinic and Harvard and Beth Israel Deaconess. And for him to say like something else is going on, I really paid attention to that. So I started digging into what could this be? And that's when Dr. Herb's name started to pop up. And as I started to look at, probably like you did, Lauren, when you first started to find Dercums, you're like, oh my gosh, this could explain a lot. Like the lists of things and the descriptions and even the fibromyalgia originally, because we all know that. What does that really
It's
mean?
yeah, a general diagnosis for we don't know,
Right. It's like an
but a
umbrella.
valid
Like
diagnosis for people that truly have fibromyalgia. Because
totally, totally. I
I
mean,
do
at
have
least
friends that
it's
have just that. I do know people that have fibromyalgia, and
absolutely,
but it is
absolutely.
overdiagnosed in our community and
Yeah.
keeps people from finding answers that they maybe could have looking further. But yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Herbst has always been a beacon that once you
I
pick up on
know.
that name, you start to figure it's crazy how much he influences that space, but it's amazing because
It's
once you get
amazing.
that one tip is all that it takes. Even if you see her, even if you just follow her research,
Totally.
it helps you, which is
Well,
amazing.
and this is crazy. I've always loved like medical mystery shows. And she was on, I don't know if ever anybody watches Mystery
The
Diagnosis.
man with 1,000 lumps.
I saw that like 10 years ago and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Dr. Herbst. And
Well, and I
then
love his piece because he wasn't overweight and he was a he. So it
right.
was a great example of how surprising this is because you don't have to be overweight. You don't
No,
have to be female. You don't have to be middle-aged. And so I love that
exactly.
she did that one case with him. And also, I think he was a veteran, right?
He was. He
Yeah.
was actually, I think he was a reservist and he was training, and they think it was the overtraining that actually kind of kicked it off, which just as you and I were talking, that can't, we have, I think we have some sort of metabolic immune system and tissue involvement, right? And so if you overtrain, you're going to stress all of those systems and it will explode. So yeah, that's exactly right. He had, and I think he had he eventually got an honorable discharge because of it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Like Ray kind of, you know?
Right, right, exactly.
Hmm.
I was so happy though. You know where I first saw her name was in Reddit. It was actually
Wow,
people
really?
people saying, and this was 2 years ago, she's the one you want to see, but she had been at the University of Arizona and then she had left and
Mhm.
people lost track of her, I think, right in COVID. So she was between going from University of Arizona to working with Dr. Amron, and she hadn't landed yet. So a lot of people didn't know that she was actually practicing. And when I made my appointment, this would have been a year and a half ago, she only had like a 3 month waiting list because people hadn't
Oh,
found her
wow.
yet. I think I'm partly responsible for her 9 month waiting list because in Reddit, I was like, she's seeing people. And once people found out that she was, landed and she had a practice, and yeah, she just her waiting list like grew like crazy.
It always does. It always does. But she still manages to make time for people, which I
She
find
does.
amazing with how busy she is, because that's how I
Totally.
got in touch with her, is because I was just desperate after doing the research. I'm like, I think I'm going crazy. So I emailed her out of nowhere
Oh
and
my
she actually
gosh.
answered me.
She's amazing. Like she or Jane, they check in with me and Clara through the Clara messaging app every now and then. Like,
Yeah,
how
her
does
and Linda
she?
Ann, I don't know how they do it. I'm accusing them of doping, some sort of performance enhancing drugs.
I worry about Linda Ann all the time too. She never sleeps. But yes, they really do. They have an incredible care for their patients, and remember everything. Like they'll Dr. Herbst remembers a lot of things. If you I've seen her, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now, and it's amazing what she I mean, I'm sure she's got her notes to refer to, but still it's details that she remembers and puts together. And
Uh,
I think she's
I
always
wait for
trying.
her paper to come out every time. Every time she drops a new like research paper, I'm there.
Totally.
I'm on it.
Well, and now, as she's gathering genetics for people, she's trying to like put more pieces together, and especially with the researcher that she's hired, I'm so excited to see what comes out of that. I think it's going to be, it won't be like overnight. We're going to be like, this is it. We know everything, but slowly the layers will get peeled, I think, and she'll start to, find some commonalities. And it may not, there could be clusters of people that look
That's good.
similar, which could
Like
be really
why am I diffuse while someone else is
right.
nodular? Why is he nodular when they're juxta articular? Like,
Right. Totally. It's so interesting. It's fascinating. Just fascinating.
All right, so the next one. How has your life changed since getting diagnosed?
Oh my gosh. I will say, and I put this squarely to thank Dr. Herbst. So since I saw her, and she just helped me understand what she hypothesized were the main contributors. My entire family, like we went back and we started looking at all the things that we've all things that are wrong with us, and we started to realize that we probably had some sort of genetic connective tissue disorder. And recently I saw a geneticist, and even though we didn't come back positive on the panel, she was like, "Oh yeah, you all definitely with the list of things everybody has." So for me, getting diagnosed was just this door that has opened for my entire family, where now even my brother's filtering things that are wrong with him through a totally different lens. And my niece, who was born with some strange things that we think are related. And, for myself, I also have multiple sclerosis. So it's always juggling, as many of us are in the Dercums community, you're juggling multiple illnesses. But I gotta say, I think Dercums is the louder of the two, and the understanding about what flares it, how to control it, really what are the root causes. I think it's literally going to change the trajectory of the rest of my life or my health. I actually think that my MS is more triggered by the general inflammation, maybe that comes, like I said, a bigger inflammatory
Because that has
condition.
to go to your brain too. Like your
Right.
brain is part of this whole organ. So
That's
yeah.
right. It starts, it's structurally, and then maybe it's like a forest fire, right? Where it starts here and then it ends up in places you don't want it to be. But I don't feel like it's gonna, I don't feel like I'm gonna go down that path anymore, because I understand so much more about um, all the pieces of things that we hypothesize. have caused, might be the root cause and how to manage it.
Mhm.
Um, it's been Dr. Herbst has just been life-changing for me. I and my family really.
I think it's also an opportunity for us to be nicer to ourselves, to give ourselves a bigger understanding that we
That's a good
weren't
point.
ever not
That's a
good
good
enough
point.
or lazy or any of the things that we
Oh,
told ourselves, you know. It
that's
gives us
so
better understanding that we're not. We've actually overcome quite a bit. We actually might be a little bit of superheroes, maybe. A little bit.
you know, I say this to my husband all the time, and he's blessed, God bless him, because he lives with somebody with multiple illnesses that I feel like he got a lemon off the production line. Like I didn't sign up for this when he married me. But if people understood how most of us feel every day, and if they could experience it for a couple of hours, they wouldn't believe that people could actually function like this. And I think you're right, Lauren. We become so highly functional in a dysfunctional state that we just take it for granted that we should be doing better, like why can't I do better? I'm just so used to being functionally dysfunctional. And I think that's a really good reminder is that we overcome so much. So many people, either they work or they have kids or they do the best. They have family members that they're, trying to elderly parents or children just trying to keep up a household with being sick and being in pain. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for how hard that is every day.
Yeah, but I think that it helps us understand what's going on with us so that we stop blaming ourselves.
Totally. That's
Yeah.
right. That is the worst thing. Once you understand, so much of, I think, the illness is can be driven by fear, right? It feels like uh, the boogeyman's going to jump out at some point and grab you. And if you feel like you have more power over understanding what it is and you have a little more control and that can also make it a little easier to get through every day and not be so scared and blaming yourself for things sometimes that you can't control.
And even then, I mean, we stayed up, we kept up with everybody else. We really did. And it's even double amazing that we made it as far as we did
It's
before we
so
were like,
true.
what's going on?
It's so true. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I was living with them apparently some form of MS, they think for 35 years it was really mild and then
And you're
all
just
these
thinking that you're clumsy.
I have all the joint, like the flat feet and the joint problems too. And I think we are so many of us are just so driven, right? Just to keep
Yeah.
going, like just programmed to keep going, just keep going.
Yep.
And you do, but it would have been nice to know some of these things earlier. But
Yeah.
I
I think it's most helpful for my daughter to know these things.
yeah.
The boys are affected by Ehlers-Danlos in their own way, but she has a lot of things that I do, not the Dercums, of course. None of them so far have
Hope
Dercums,
not. Let's hope,
but
knock on wood.
he wants to squeak
Knock.
through. There may be a
Oh,
child that wanders through. It is a delightful extra. All right. What do you want doctors to know if they watch this, if they make it this far?
oh my goodness. If I think back to myself, where you've got a fairly highly functional person who seems like they have their, themselves together, and they're complaining about like joint pain, they got fingers that look like this, maybe with, you know, lipomas scattered, um, family history of things that are not the stuff on the list necessarily, but do you have patients or sorry, family members that have like joint problems? Did you have like a lot of injuries? For people coming in and complaining about pain and maybe uh, skin issues, lipedema, or certainly the Dercums nodules, there's so much that is sitting there that people, I think doctors just are not asking the right questions. And when you when I put together a white paper that I went over with the geneticist, she was like, "Oh my gosh, absolutely." And I was like, why has nobody done this? Why did it take me doing this? You know, as many doctors as I've been to, and them all looking at me and asking me, like, is my husband being good to me?
Ah,
Am I
yeah.
stressed about work? Like, no, no, no. I'm a
Are
highly
you
functional
tired,
person.
honey? Maybe
Yeah, are
you
you
need a
tired?
nap. Oh, you're like, no, this is really like, I never complain. I never complain.
Right,
And when I do, you tell me that I might be tired or stressed or that my husband's being mean to me or
right. How about we start with not that as the hypothesis, and how about we start with the fact that it could be something structural? And I think I don't mean to offend any doctors who might be watching, but I think in my experience, it's I know it's not an area that many of them are trained in, and when they're not trained or comfortable in an area, they tend to avoid it. And I think that's the problem with a lot of what is wrong with us is that they are these things run in the fringes of areas that doctors are just not they're not trained on. They're trained on looking for people with like major dislocations, but not kind of this chronic instability or hypermobility syndrome that is cumulative over time, right? That becomes really uh, it can become a problem as you get older. And then, with Dercums, sometimes just the edge of metabolic, problems or lipomas that if somebody's got 10 lipomas on their arms, that's probably not normal. So, can we start with a hypothesis that there could be something there, maybe that we don't understand, or maybe we know somebody who could put the pieces together. But almost all of us have been dismissed over and over again to the point where it's my MS diagnosis was probably delayed by 10 to 15 years because of that. And so it hurts patients when we do that, especially people that we can tell, and doctors should be able to, they should have a pretty good sense of somebody who seems like they have their shit together that, maybe we could take them seriously and consider that they might actually have something, that could be wrong.
so it goes to my next question, which I haven't gotten to before because with Juanita and Ray, it was a little bit more of a sensitive area, but I think with you and I that we can do this. We're going to talk about medical gaslighting.
Oh, I could write given that my mother had MS and oh sorry, I'm going to let you ask your question, but I just jumped
I
right
mean, it's
in.
pretty much that it's have you been, because I don't even have to ask if you've been medically gaslit. So, dismissed by doctors. And the fun one, this is the fun part of the round. What is the craziest thing that a doctor has said to you?
Oh boy, I have written this up in Reddit many times for people in the MS community. So and for Dercums as well. When I first got whatever was wrong with me when I was 25 and I was training for a marathon and I felt like I came in and I had the flu really badly and never felt like I recovered. I was in Virginia at that point, in Richmond, which is not like a tiny town. It's a good town.
Pretty good size.
Yeah, it's a couple million people now. There were many good doctors. I saw my mother was an RN, so we went to like every internist. And we went to see a really skilled internist because nobody was finding anything wrong with me. And I started having not like paresthesia in my arms and legs, which we now know I was in the beginning stages of MS. I think it was the beginning of an MS attack at that point. But I called him one weekend because I was worried. I mean, I'm 25 years old. I can feel like half of my arm is numb.
Yeah. My arm should be
And
going numb. I'm a young lady. Like,
25. And he said, he was like one of those, I don't know if you ever watched like Murder, She Wrote or one of those,
I love Angela Lansbury.
one of those shows from the 60s movies. Like he had the white coat, old
Oh,
guy with the
yeah.
glasses. And he was on the phone, but I could just imagine him standing there with like martini, like, he was like, let me send you something over for your nerves. And I
Oh,
literally just
no.
wanted to like climb through the phone, but I was, 25 at that point. But in my mind, Lauren, I have my MRI and I'm sure he's dead now, but he's in my mind, he's not dead. And I've run into his office. I feel like
I told you so. I told you.
I told you. And then I had a lymph node behind my ear, that same doctor that was would swell and they couldn't figure out why. Now we know why, but he kept saying, "Are you picking at that?" No, actually, I'm not. Like my body's doing this because a
Well, I thought
Harvard study
pinching it
showed,
was totally normal. I just sit there and pinch it all day, right? That's what I do. Yeah.
yeah, a Harvard study showed that Epstein-Barr reactivation is probably what happened. But anyway, that wasn't done at that point. But anyway, that those are the I have many more, but those are two that stand out. And in my mind, I have closed the loop by taking my MRI back to these doctors or my Dr. Herbst report and saying, "See,
Yeah, I know. I think my horror story doctor has passed away as well. He was actually the doctor that was there at my birth and my pediatrician.
oh wow,
Um, but Dr. Beckner, if you're still out there,
exactly."
I wasn't being dramatic because I'm a girl. My femur was broken. Thank you.
That's right. That's when that was your
Yeah, my
point.
school called him and was like, we think that, and he's like, no, no, she's just being dramatic because she's a girl. She can wait for her mom to get off work. You're like, okay.
I think for all doctors listening, you're hearing our stories. Just please, please do your do the diligence, even if it's an area that you're not familiar with. And I think
It's okay not to know
it's
everything.
okay. We don't blame you, and I know it's
Look it up.
hard. Exactly. Or find someone who might be able to, that you can refer us to. And I think what I've learned too is I think my MS, my inflammatory episodes were very much driven by a lot of the structural, problems that I had, like the instability. And so maybe, consider if somebody's got pain and it can't be explained and you've ruled out everything else, like that's a good place to start. Like there's so many rheumatologists now, I think they're called physiatrists, doctors who are now schooled in this, especially after the expansion or the redefinition of the connective tissue disorders in 2017, or even do some research, uh, to just get people to the right. Try to help take one more thing off the table because you and I both, like I was my unfortunately the more severe part of my illness was delayed for probably 15 years diagnosis because of continually being told nothing was wrong with me. And
Yeah.
you've been in that same boat. So it does real damage to patients, unfortunately.
Well, and now I don't want my children to try to get diagnosed on their own until they're old enough to, because of the implications that it may have for them in their futures. It may actually be
Absolutely.
held against them.
That's right.
And so I'm like, if you want to pursue that on your own and you want it on a piece of paper,
That's a good
that's
point.
great. You make that choice. But with the way that the world is right now,
That's a good point.
there may be a
That's
list that you don't want to be on.
that's a really good point. Well, and with insurance, I mean,
Right.
the
Insurance, the
the
DNA,
fewer
like
things, the better.
we don't know.
It's
So
true. It's true. Smaller footprint, the better.
yeah. So, I was like, I can tell you all these things. And if you ever want to get like a fancy piece of paper that says it on it, you go right ahead. But that's going to be your decision on how you
Yeah,
want to live your life. I don't want
I
them
mean,
stigmatized or anything like that. So,
especially if they're not having ill health issues,
right.
there's no reason to. They might be fine. They might never, might never need to.
Well, I mean, in the 30s, it probably catches up with you, Ehlers-Danlos alone, but,
That's true. I think mine did. Mine was I definitely have what most doctors have told me is benign joint hypermobility. It did get worse as I got older. I think it crossed over from not being benign to being less benign, but I was also a runner and probably not taking care of myself like I should have
Like
had I
that's not
known.
her.
But if I'd known, I might not have done those things. So,
But it's like you're playing on a higher level with a handicap, you know? You're like, all right, I can still do it even with this. Oh,
right. I was right. I was always that kind of person where I didn't want to accept that I couldn't do things. So
oh yeah.
I'm like, no, I'll just keep going, even if it's hurting or if, my ankle doesn't feel great. Just keep going.
I mean, don't tell me no. Don't tell me I
Right.
can't do it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's just gonna fuel the fire.
We're both definitely Aries, you can tell.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, that's right. That's right. I forgot you were too. The
don't
fire.
tell me no. I'm gonna figure it out for myself.
Exactly. Leave me alone.
I got this. So, all right, we're on to the last question because we made it through all of them.
Okay.
What are the things that help you manage your conditions the most?
So this is kind of an interesting intersection where two doctors that haven't talked to each other. So my neurologist and Dr. Herbst gave me, I think, the best advice that has helped me the most. And it was surprising as I thought about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, they both said the same thing, but they've never met each other. So when I was diagnosed with MS, my neurologist said to me, and I was so fortunate to have had him. He just retired, but I had him for 4 good years, which is like he got me through the worst parts of, being diagnosed and getting stable. But he said, the day that I met him, he said, food is going to have the biggest impact on how you feel. And I was like, really?
Mhm.
Like, really? I didn't believe him at the time. And turns out he was right. And Dr. Herbst, when I saw her last year, she was like, how's your diet? And I was like, well, I'm probably like 80% compliant. And she's like, that's not good enough. She was like, your body just can't handle it, Kim. So my diet, I know that sounds like woo woo and like the latest trend, but it is undeniable that what I eat, depending on how sensitive I am, to your point, Lauren, the day or the hour, um, has been the biggest impact on how I feel. Um, and second to that, I think, is getting enough exercise and movement and, moving the lymph. But really following, figuring out what my triggers are and trying to stay, away from the things that are driving inflammation, irritating my gut, just, high histamine foods, old aged cheeses, alcohol, aged
I love
meats.
aged cheeses.
I know. I
I can
have
give up the
them.
booze easy, no problem. But the aged cheeses, man, I love
I
Manchego
same
and
here. Gouda, aged, nothing better than an aged Gouda.
uh,
Um, But you know what? I have them in moderation. So I know Dr. Herbst will want to plug her ears if she's listening, but I do, I have them. I know I'm not going to feel great the next day. So sometimes I'll take an antihistamine or, one of the DAO supplements, um, and I try to keep myself on an even keel. But that
mhm.
has been absolutely game changing for paying attention. And I didn't believe my neurologist. I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I know food obviously has a big impact on inflammation, but it is a daily, it is absolutely the ups and downs of my body's a lot less forgiving than it was, 5 years ago.
That's true. And every once in a while, I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna eat like a normal person.
I've had a few of
And
those days.
then,
You're like, you feel, I mean, I feel like I used to if I drank too much. That's what I
yeah,
feel like if
I
I
feel
eat
like someone
poorly.
has hit me in different spots with like
Yes.
a small wooden bat. It just feels like little bruises all under the skin.
Exactly. My out like this, it's so funny. The skin around my joints,
Um,
it's not my joints, but it
yeah,
gets
like the
so sore.
tender
Yes.
bits, like in here, like right towards, but not in the joint, but like right
No.
towards it and right here.
Yes. That's exactly it. It's the lymph, right? It's probably
It's
the
gotta be.
the duct area where things are supposed to drain. Um, I will say one other thing that I have found that's really been helpful. because I love data. I do track, and I try not to let myself get too cuckoo on this, but I have my wearable, right, my Apple Watch, and I look at my heart rate variability quite a bit, and I have an app that I use. I'm not giving a plug for the app. There's many apps out there, like Aura Ring is one, and this one just is called Welltory, and it gives you kind of a health score every day and a stress score, and it's all built off of algorithms that are tied to your heart rate variability. I really do look at that, and it ties in with my sleep too. And so if I'm gonna have a day where I know I'm gonna eat something poorly, I try not to have it be on a day where I'm already like run my battery down. And so
Oh.
those things together have helped me, and it also helps me feel like I'm not falling apart. When I
Mhm.
look at my scores and they look really good for my age, I'm like, see, you're okay, like you're doing okay. You may not feel okay, but you may feel a little creaky, but you're okay. You're
Yeah, I think
okay.
when I
You're gonna
looked
be
back,
okay.
it was crazy that I had already been low carb for so long. And
Yes.
anytime that I ate outside of that way of eating and I felt awful, I would just attribute it to it being, like kind of the opposite of the keto flu, right?
Yes.
You're like, well,
Yes.
of course, I overdid it with the carbs, but it makes a lot more sense now that I know.
You know what? I did intermittent fasting for many, many, many years, mostly because of vanity, because I was
Yeah.
always like trying to. But when Dr. Herb saw me, I think I was writing to you guys earlier on a post uh, from the last 24 hours. I have a really abnormal amount of fat, even though I'm not a fat person. But the proportions are not like the muscle to fat is not great. And so I used to starve myself, which probably didn't help,
Oh, yeah, I
just to
did
try
that
to,
too. We were
yeah,
all alive in the 80s and 90s and then the 2000s with the impossibly small and the itty bitty. And I figured out that I was eating like 900 calories when I was,
totally.
and that was like for years because I'm feeding like my kids and I'm trying to make sure that I'm feeding them enough calories. And I look at what they're eating. My 5-year-old's eating more than me.
Totally. Well, we were raised right, and that
The
was the
cabbage diet, the soup diet,
yes,
the grapefruit
yes,
diet. Oh,
totally,
never
all of
again.
it.
Ugh.
All and my parents were always, they were really health
Oh,
conscious dieting, which I
mhm.
mean, back in the 70s. But I don't I'm like you too. I ate sparingly and not very many carbs, and I would tend to eat protein if I ate. So yes, I have that recollection as well, where if I ate normally, I'd be like, wow, I feel horrible. Must be just because I'm not used to it.
Right. Like I would just assume it's because I went off of my diet. You
Right.
know, that's my punishment, I guess, for going
Right.
off my diet. And you're like, who even thinks like that?
Now it's terrible. Like I don't even want to go off my diet anymore. I guess as you get older and all the all the
It's
problems
gotta
I
be
have.
worth it. It's gotta be worth it. Something that you look
Oh.
at and you're like, oh, that's too good.
You know what I found recently that I love, and it's like a guilty pleasure that I seem to be able to tolerate. And they're at my local Sprouts. I don't know if you guys have Sprouts, but it's like, I don't know, Trader Joe's, or they're brown rice cakes, and they're covered in chocolate. Oh,
Oh,
and you know what?
nice.
They're a little carby, but it's sort of like a cookie, but not, right? And it's not super sweet. So
I've
I don't know
recently
if
been able to work in, hold your excitement, a potato.
no way. Now that is one thing I've actually been able to live off of because I can't
I
do a
love
lot,
potatoes. I
but they
love them
bother
so
you.
much. But for carb wise, I wasn't allowed to have them. It doesn't
Oh
fit in your
yeah.
carb count for the day. If
Yeah.
you're on 20, I mean, that's one potato is your whole day.
Totally. I
So
probably
now
should be paying more attention to that than I am.
I'm trying to put in like, just a little bit more carbs and trying to build it up, but like, not pasta, not anything like that, but just a
Yeah.
little bit more food, a little tiny bit more carbs, like 10, 20 more carbs and,
Yeah. The complex,
moderate.
that's complex carbs, right? Those are
But
those
I
are
love
better for you.
I love potatoes. I can't
I
help
do
it.
too.
European. It calls to me.
You know what we made last night? You boil them, little potatoes, and you smash them, and then you put them in the oven with some olive
Oh,
oil.
yeah. For me, it was the Japanese curry, like a little Japanese curry with the potatoes and the steak.
Oh,
So good. I love curry.
oh, that sounds delicious. Sounds yummy. I could eat. I could do some eating. I sadly can't eat probably like I used to, but I want to.
The will is there. The
The
will
will is
is there.
there.
All right, I'm gonna go,
I know
but
it's so late. Thank you, Lauren.
oh no, this was wonderful. I got to hang out with you one on one. I really get so much more than I thought of out of these interviews. Like I get to learn about people that,
Oh yeah.
but I mean, I get to learn more. We get to hang out, we get to talk. I mean, it's never a bad thing.
It's so
So,
great. Thank you for staying up so late too, within the middle of all your single mom. That's a lot. Oh my gosh, you're like my hero every day, what you go through.
it's just like living with chronic illnesses. You don't know any different, right? You adapt and you don't know any
It's
different. And
true.
really, my
It's true.
children are wonderful kids. They really are. They make it easy to take
Oh,
care of them. It's not like they're really even a problem, you know?
that's well, they have good mom and dad. That is a big
I
part of
should
it.
hope so. Pretty hard. But I look forward to
Oh,
seeing you again
yeah,
soon. This was fun.
yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank
And
you so
everybody
much.
tune in to Kim's Coffee.
Coffee
It's
with
amazing. You
Kim.
get to talk with Kim. You all get to hang out and chat. It's amazing. You guys will love it. And thank
Yeah.
you, Kim, for doing the interview.
Oh my gosh, totally. I'll do a little promo on the community for the Coffee with Kim next week.
Yeah, yeah. And I hope that
Awesome.
it's fun.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye. Bye-bye.